Hello everyone, Aiden here and welcome to another episode of Aiden Athletics. In today's video, we're going to be going over my predictions for the College Football Conference Championship games and the winners for the Power 4 and the Group of 6. Now, just a fair warning on this video, my research for this video might not be a bit stacked, so to speak, because I'm still a bit of a novice at all of this stuff and a little bit inexperienced, so I can only gather as much information I could on the Power 4 and the Group of 6, so sort of just kind of take it as it is. And also, I've just been busy behind the scenes with moving into my new apartment at Mizzou, getting ready for marching band and band camp and all that stuff, so you can just take this video as it is and we'll see how this goes. So anyways, if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like, comment, and subscribe, and turn on the notification bell, because if you like college football, mainly college football, you've come to the right place. These are my predictions for the College Football Playoff Conference Championship games and the winners. So starting off with the predictions, we're going to go to the SEC. I don't think I remember a year where the SEC was so wide open, because in the past you had the SEC East and the West. And now that it's just one big group, you have so many contenders who can make it to Atlanta, like Alabama, Georgia, LSU, Texas, Oklahoma, and even Florida in the mix if we want to get a little bit spicy with it. And you can make a case why each of those teams I mentioned could go to Atlanta. But if you have seen my video on my playoff predictions, the top two teams in the SEC that were in that playoff were Texas and Georgia. I think this is going to be the second time that these two are going to meet in Atlanta. Obviously, I think these are two of the best teams in the conference. Obviously, you have Texas with Arch Manning, Cam Coleman, and Colin Simmons on the defense. And Georgia with Gunnar Stockton, which I think not a lot of people are saying that he's going to be one of the best quarterbacks. But people are sleeping on him, but I think he'll do wonders for Georgia. But in this matchup, I have Texas winning this game and winning the SEC. Texas, I think it's now or never for them. C. Sarkisian is going to his fifth year, I believe. And they have guys on that team that are going to be absolute playmakers. Obviously, you have Arch Manning, Cam Coleman, Colin Simmons, and they bring over guys like Hollywood Smothers and Raleek Brown on the running backs. I think Texas is going to be one of the best teams in the country. And plus, you bring over Will Muschamp to call the plays on the defense. So, yes, Texas is my winner for the SEC. Moving on to the Big Ten. The Big Ten also kind of feels a little wide open, but I think it's more so on the teams that are on the tippy top for Tier 1, like Ohio State, Oregon, Michigan, Indiana, Penn State, and even Washington. But the two teams, and once again, if you saw my bracket, my top two teams are Oregon and Ohio State. This is going to be a rematch of their Week 10 game in Columbus. And I have Oregon winning this game. Oregon, I think, is another one of those teams like Texas who are going to be in that now or never position. They have all the tools coming back to win a national championship, and winning the Big Ten in the last 2 or 3, and winning the Big Ten Conference 2 times in the last 3 years that you've been in this conference is such a big feat for this program that I could see Oregon winning this conference and maybe beating someone like Ohio State or Indiana. One of those two teams could go to Indianapolis with them. But I see the Ducks beating Ohio State in this one and Oregon winning the Big Ten. Next, we have the Big 12. And I think the Big 12 is one of those conferences that you just don't know what you're going to get. You have so many playmakers on so many teams in this conference. Oh my gosh, Texas Tech, BYU, Houston, and I could even throw Baylor out because they got DJ Lagway. For the championship game, I'm going to go with BYU and Texas Tech. This is a rematch, yes, from last year, but it's going to be a bit different this time. This time, I have BYU winning this game. BYU brings so much production back on both sides of the ball. You got Bear Bachmeier, LJ Martin, and all those, I think some of those linemen, which I found out, I think they were single digits, which is pretty neat in my book. And also, again, that defense is really good as well. And knowing that Texas Tech, on the other hand, does have a really good team, don't get me wrong, I don't really trust Will Hammond as a quarterback because he's coming off an injury, because that was when Brendan Morton took over and led them to a Big 12 championship and all that stuff. But yeah, if it was a choice between Bear Bachmeier and Will Hammond, I would probably go with Bachmeier. And plus, BYU seems a lot more like a more efficient team. And I think that BYU is like a big sleeper in like the playoff race to maybe even make a run. So yes, BYU is my winner for the Big 12. And last up with the Power Four, we have the ACC. And the ACC is almost just like one team versus everybody else. And that one team up above is Miami. Miami for sure is going to make it to Charlotte. Obviously, Darian Mensah looks like a Heisman candidate during his time back at Duke. And you also have, Malachi Toney and Mark Fletcher Jr., and you bring in that really good defender, Damon Wilson from Missouri. But yeah, I think Miami is just one of those teams that could maybe win it all in the national championship. But who will they go against? You got a lot of teams. SMU, Louisville, Virginia, Pittsburgh, Georgia Tech even. I don't know, Alberto Mendoza, shout out to him. But I like SMU. Rhett Lashley has done a great job down in Dallas, and he's bringing back a lot of guys on this team. Kevin Jennings is a really good quarterback, and I think he could be one of the best in the country if he sort of makes his plays, I think is how you want to say it. But SMU is my team to get back into the ACC, but the last time they went in there, they lost to Clemson, and I think they'll lose again to Miami. So Miami is my winner for the ACC, wrapping up all the Power Four. Now that we've covered the Power Four, let's head into the group of six, starting with the Pac-12, the new Pac-12 to be exact. The Pac-12 has 6 new teams in it: Utah State, Boise State, San Diego State, Colorado State, Fresno State, and Texas State. I think I said all 6 of them. And this is probably going to be one of the most enjoyable conferences this year. I think there's about half of these teams could end up winning the conference, and that is what made the Pac-12 so special. It was just so unpredictable back in its heyday, and I think it's probably going to do the same this year. So for my championship game, I have Boise State versus Texas State. This is going to be in Boise at the Broncos Stadium, and in this game, I have Boise State winning this game. Boise State is sort of just like one of those mid-major teams where you could just like pick one good one at random to see who could win that 12th seed in the playoffs. But Boise is the one team that I think is going to make that spot. Spencer Danielston has done a great job rebuilding the Broncos after taking them to the playoffs a couple years ago, and I think he'll do the same this year. You bring back Maddox Matson. I think he's a pretty good group of 6 quarterback. And yeah, I think there's just a lot of excitement surrounding Boise, and I think the Broncos are going to win this game. But I think Texas State, on the other hand, has a case to win it as well. I forgot what their head coach's name, but he's pretty good, and so is their quarterback. And Texas State is going to be maybe one of those teams that could bring a lot of chaos to this conference. But yeah, Boise State and Texas State are again going to meet, and that is why I'm picking the Broncos to win the Pac-12, their first Pac-12 championship. Next is the American Conference, one of my personal favorite major conferences. This was probably one of the most fun conferences to watch last year. There were so many teams in that race to win the conference. It was crazy. Memphis, Army, Navy, South Florida, Tulane, who won the conference and went to the playoffs. The second American Conference team ever to go to the playoffs. The last was Cincinnati with Desmond Ridder and Luke Fickell and all those boys. But for this, my conference title game is going to have UTSA and South Florida. South Florida, first of all, I think is going to be one of the most fun, one of the most intriguing teams to watch this year. They brought in Brian Hartline from Ohio State, one of the best hires I think he ever did. And he brought in a great staff with him, like offensive coordinator Tim Beck, who's been at a lot of places, even at Ohio State, I think, with Urban Meyer. And he also went to Texas with Tom Herman, and then he went to NC State. So I think this was a great hire. They have a quarterback battle going on with Michael Van Buren from LSU and Luke Kromenhoek, I think is how you say his name, from Florida State. But I think Van Buren will win the job. UTSA, on the other hand, is a great team as well. Jeff Traylor has been killing it down in San Antonio with the Roadrunners. And they also have their quarterback coming back in Owen McCowan, who is great as well. And their offensive coordinator, who they brought in from Western Kentucky, is great as well, who helped that offense be great, which may not spoil later in this video. But between these two teams, I have UTSA winning this team. I think they're obviously the most consistent team in this conference. I mean, the only team that I think could pair up with UTSA for consistency would be like Navy, but most of their players graduated from the that service academy. So I think UTSA, the Roadrunners, are going to win the American Conference this year. They are my pick. Head on over to the Mountain West. The Mountain West has a lot of new teams coming in, like I think UC Davis, Northern Illinois, who else? Oh, North Dakota State as well, the Bison, that FCS dynasty is finally making the jump to the FBS, which is going to be so exciting to watch. But I don't think they're going to make the title this year because it's kind of they were regressing a lot last season. They lost in the first round to Northern Illinois in the FCS playoffs, so I'm not sure how they'll do in the Mountain West in their first year. That's why this year I have New Mexico and UNLV in my championship game. Starting off with UNLV, Dan Mullen is obviously in year 2 in Las Vegas. I think he's still a great coach from the past places he's been to, like Mississippi State and Florida. And he brought in Jackson Arnold in the portal from Auburn, which I think is a very great quarterback. So him and that Dan Mullen offense are going to probably make the Rebels make the Mountain West title once again for their 4th straight year, which I think is crazy. But this time they're going to play New Mexico. New Mexico, I think, is probably one of the darlings in the mid-majors this year. They were so close to making the Mountain West title last year, but they lost the tiebreaker to Boise State and UNLV. But they went on to losing the Rape Bowl to Minnesota. But still, I like New Mexico this year. Jason Eck, I think, he's just done a great job with this team. They're just so well coached. He brought in some great guys in the portal, and I think that New Mexico is going to win the Mountain West, and they're going to compete for that group of 6 spot in the playoffs. So please don't be surprised if New Mexico makes it to the playoff this year. They're probably going to be so fired up if they do make it, and whoever is that 5th seed, watch out. Give me the Lobos to win the Mountain West. Now we're going to head to Conference USA, and for this game, I have Western Kentucky and Liberty. Starting off, we have Western Kentucky. They are one of the most consistent teams ever, I think, in the mid-majors. Year in and year out. They have coordinators leaving, coaches leaving, and they still somehow find a way to keep themselves in that conference title race. But they haven't won a title. I don't know how long it's been since they've done that, but I think this is the year they do that. And also, their head coach, I think his name, Tyson Helton, has done a great job for the Hilltoppers. I could see Western Kentucky making the title. And as for Liberty, they're weird because Liberty was so disappointing last year. It's hard for people to trust this team to get back in that title race. So I don't know what's going on with the Flames, but the reason I have them here is because I think they're going to do it this year. Like, forget everything that's happened in the past. This is the year that the Liberty Flames are going to get locked in and make it to the title race. But I still think that Western Kentucky is going to win the Conference USA. So, Western Kentucky versus Liberty, and the Hilltoppers are going to win. Okay, now before I get to the next conference, I want to let you all know that this is sort of where my knowledge on these teams may get a bit hazy, I guess, because I haven't really been paying attention to these teams because I've been mostly focusing on like the bigger games and the bigger teams that are to look forward to this season. So sort of just like take it as it is, and we'll just go from there and see what happens. So anyways, let's move on to the Mid-American Conference, the MAC. The MAC is probably one of the more unique conferences. It's obviously in like one region of the country, like around the Great Lakes and the Tri-State area. And plus they have a new member in Sacramento State. They have a lot to like this year. But the conference title I have this year is going to be Miami of Ohio and Western Michigan. And I want to start with Miami of Ohio. The Red Hawks have probably one of the best off seasons of this year. Chuck Martin, their head coach, has done pretty great down for this team, and they beat their opponent Western Michigan in the regular season and met them again in Detroit. So yeah, I could see them make the title. Western Michigan, on the other hand, is probably one of the more like sleeping giant mid-majors this year. Brock Lowry is back at quarterback, and Jake Buckley is back at running back. And their head coach, Lance Taylor, has done a great job in Kalamazoo. And he was a disciple with Nick Saban, and I think was a graduate assistant at Alabama. So yeah, there's a lot to like about him. But if I had to choose between these two, give me Western Michigan. I like the consistency between the Broncos, and they have an interesting schedule. They play Boise State at home, I think, week 3. So that'll be one of the best mid-major matches to watch. So yeah, I think Western Michigan will win the MAC their second year and, yeah, beat the Redhawks again. And last but not least, we have the Sun Belt. The Sun Belt is one of those conferences that surprisingly made the playoffs last year. Yeah, they did. If I told you that about a year ago, you would probably think I'm crazy, but they have some kind of good teams on here, like James Madison, ODU, Old Dominion, and Troy as well. So I think the conference title game is going to be James Madison and ODU. Starting with ODU, Old Dominion was a pretty interesting team last year. They were a 9-win team last year, I think so. 9 or 10 wins, I'm not sure. But they were pretty close against Indiana in their first game, which I think was insane. And they beat South Florida in their bowl game at the Cure Bowl with which that team had Byron Brown and all of his guys on that team. So yeah, I can see ODU making the title. And James Madison, on the other hand, is so consistent these past couple of years that they've had coaches leave and they still find themselves to be good. Like Kurt Cignetti leaves to go to Indiana. They get into the playoffs. Bob Chesney comes in. Here comes Billy Napier. And I think that was a pretty good hire for the Dukes. I think they'll find themselves getting back into the title race once again. And I think that JMU is going to win the Sun Belt and beat ODU to win the conference. And with that, that is my video for the College Football Conference Championship games and titles. This honestly was a video I was worried about making because I thought I wouldn't have like all the resources like I needed for it. But I think what I had for the Power 4 and the first couple of Group of 6 teams, I think were pretty good. So again, it's all still a work in progress for me. I'm still a novice at all this stuff, not really like an inexperienced YouTuber and all this stuff. So thank you all so much for watching this video. I really appreciate it. And this is going to be the last video I'm going to be having in here before I move into my new apartment. So I am probably uploading this video around like the 20th or the 21st, but we'll see. So yeah, the next time you see me, I'll be in my new apartment. So yeah, I guess I'll see you guys for my next video. Thank you again so much for watching. Don't forget to leave a like, comment, and subscribe to turn on the notification bell for more videos in the future. And yeah, one final time, thank you so much for watching. Bye.